Hello and welcome. In the spirit of my brand new book, The Delicate Art of Transformation, I've been on a quest for truth. What does it actually take to create real, lasting transformation? And here you are on the precipice of something big. I don't think that's a coincidence that we should ignore. Welcome, my friend. Welcome to the True Transformation Summit. This is where true growth and transformation happens because sometimes it's about your mindset. You're working on your thoughts and your beliefs. Sometimes it's about connecting deeper with your body. Sometimes it's stepping into success and rewiring yourself for wealth. And sometimes it's a spiritual one. But when the right person says the right thing at the right time and it all clicks, those are the moments that make all the difference. And that is what this summit is here for. You're going to hear from some incredible experts who every single one I personally invited to be here because each of them have made an impact in my life. So listen with an open heart, do what they say, take what resonates, try the practices, get their free gifts, and let this space be the place where you find your next step. My name is Talia Joy. I'm your host. And if you want all the free gifts, the resources, and the only place where you can be entered for prizes, you can join the Insider Circle for free below. All right, without further ado, take a deep breath in. Think about what you are transforming, what you are here for. And let's dive into today's episode. Hello, Sebastian. Welcome to the True Transformation Summit. How are you today, my friend?
I'm doing very good. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited. We're having a conversation across the world, which is very fun. Thank goodness for technology. And I invited you here today because I've been listening to your podcasts for years, and I love your grounded, calming tone, but I love the way that you teach about manifestation, the way that you bring in Neville Goddard and Joe Dispenza and your own story, which I can't wait to get into. So I'm so excited you're here today. I definitely knew that you had to be a voice in this summit when it comes to manifestation and really, making it real in our life. So thank you again for being here. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much. That was a beautiful introduction. Now I'm ready to get started.
Absolutely. So if there's anyone here that is new to your work, let's just start there. Who are you and a little bit about what you do?
Perfect. So my name is Sebastian. I'm from Germany and I'm a manifestation coach. And I actually got into this manifestation sphere and the spiritual sphere in general. We could say, in a sense by accident through my own journey, because before 2020, before I had my big health issue, which then led to my spiritual awakening, you could say that I was the most unspiritual person ever. Like I didn't believe in anything, spirituality, manifesting. I just called it woo-woo and all kinds of other names. So I was really not into that stuff. But then I had a health issue where I had a surgery where a cyst was removed from my bladder. And I then developed severe nerve damage afterwards, where every doctor I consulted told me it's impossible to heal. And that's when I then, while I was bedridden, stumbled upon Joe Dispenza's work, read You Are the Placebo. Then I went into Neville Goddard's work, and I then got deeper and deeper into the manifestation sphere. And that's how it then all started.
That's incredible. And I want to circle back or talk more about that, the health journey, because I know for a lot of people, it can feel really very difficult. And you know this as a manifestation teacher, it's the divide between I want something, but my physical life is the complete opposite. So wanting well-being when you're in pain, dealing with nerve damage from a surgery and everything that comes along with that. When people say, I want to manifest money, but I'm in debt, that's such a key part where so many people get stuck. And of course, we're going to get to that in a second and breaking through and all that. But how was that for you? While you're trying to recover, you're stumbling across this information that probably feels like there's quite a gap from where you were to where this information you were reading. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, in the beginning, it was really hard to believe in it. But that's why, again, I love the teachings from Joe Dispenza that really goes in the scientific direction. And I'm also blessed that I have a family member who then became, in a sense, my spiritual mentor during that time, who really helped me a lot. And for me, one of the most challenging things was to, and that's also a good way of actually jumping into that topic, was to find a way to actually be grateful in the moment, even though everything in my physical reality was in a sense one big shit sandwich. Like it was really horrible. I was completely broke. Then I had the surgery right during that time of the lockdown. Then the one struggling business I had was completely failing because everything was closed basically. Then I was bedridden, and during that time, I had to find ways to generate positive emotions, to generate gratitude, to generate joy, to generate, yeah, then also, of course, on the journey of money abundance. And I think, as you also said, that's the biggest challenge for a lot of people is that they want something, they might be able to feel abundance or joy when they think about their vision for the future. But then, whenever they open their eyes and they look around and they say, okay, nothing has changed, that's when they struggle with feeling the positive emotions. But I think the key to manifesting is, and it can take a lot of practice, is to combine the gratitude and the joy for the future with the gratitude and the joy for the current present moment.
Yeah, I definitely hear you. And bringing it into the present moment is the key. And I feel like for so long, The Secret came out and it kind of brought manifestation a bit more mainstream, but it was really a little bit still pointing to, things outside yourself. If we sit here and we think about money and money's going to come, but I feel like that was a good way to bring it mainstream again, but it does get more nuanced. So, I would love to even just hear in the beginning as you're sitting there. I imagine you like in bed for quite a while, recovering from this. What were some of the first things that you really learned, like laying in that bed, reading Joe Dispenza and Neville Goddard? What did you kind of take away from that or learn that kind of blew your mind at first?
I mean, the one thing I had never really thought about until then, which is true for so many people, is what stress actually does to us and how we are, through certain traumas in our life, conditioned into the survival state. And I always see it like this, and nowadays I know that it's true, but back then I just had to learn it, that the universe, in a sense, materializes every internal state that we have in our physical reality. Which means if we are in a state of stress, even if, for example, we think abundant thoughts, even if we feel the joy of being abundant, we are signaling to the field, universe, please bring me more situations, more people, more circumstances to feel stressed. What makes us more stressed? Less money, losing money, getting sick, not healing. But then when we go into a state of relaxation, that's when we signal that signal in, or send that signal into the field. Universe, give me more reasons to be relaxed, to be at peace, to be in balance, which means wholeness, more money, making more money, being healed. And that was for me one of the biggest, I would say, discoveries, especially how Joe Dispenza talked about stress and the impact of stress in You're the Placebo, where I realized that all of these ways that we've been conditioned with work harder, hustle more, do more until you basically can't work anymore, that we are conditioned that this leads to success, whereas it's actually the opposite. And to accept that can be incredibly challenging. And to then also realize that, oh my God, through the way that I treated myself and my body all these years, this, and that's why I love that English word for it, disease, for disease, that I created this disease in my body, and that I am actually, as Neville Goddard would call it, the operant power. And I think this is also something where it is hard for people, and it was also hard for me back then, to take ownership, to take responsibility, and to look at themselves in the mirror and say, okay, if I created this sickness, then I can also create health. But of course, our first initial response when we're in this stress state, and it was for me the same, is to blame everyone around us. And that can be, I think, in the beginning, a very challenging process.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the human brain, too, and the way self growth is set up, the whole industry is to kind of figure out why, right? We've been searching for root wounds and root limiting beliefs and root, which is great and very helpful. It's all a part of the pie. But as you said, kind of endlessly looking almost leads us to go like, well, it was because my mom didn't do this, or because the economy did that, or because this person abandoned me, or because, and it's outside ourselves. So I'm really glad you started going here, because that's what I was going to bring up in your message. And I hear you talk about this when you realize like, wait, I created this dis-ease, which means I can create something new. That in itself is very tricky, as you know. And as you know, as a coach, I'm sure you wouldn't open a call with like, well, you created that, so see ya. And that can add to people's almost shame in that really sticky, we're kind of talking to that in between time, right? So how do we start to really see, because I feel that the power in like, holy crap, if I created this, imagine what I create if my focus was in a direction of something that I wanted. So I'd love to talk about that, how we can take that responsibility with being careful not to layer on like, I created this, I'm doing things wrong, I'm doing things bad, and that kind of thing, which obviously doesn't help us.
That's a really good question. I mean, first I would say, and I probably quoted wrong a little bit, but Neville Goddard has this quote: "Do not waste one moment in regret, for it recreates that same circumstance again." Something along these lines, which means to recognize that regret will only lead you deeper into a state that you don't want to be in, to then also recognize in the second step, and this is a sentence that I always reminded myself of: every human being is on their own unique journey, if they're aware of it or not. Which means if a certain person has wronged you in the past, or you want to blame somebody for something, for a certain trauma, which in some cases, of course, I mean, they're like, I had clients with severe trauma, with things that, yeah, that go way beyond the things that I, for example, experienced. But to then realize that the only way you can free yourself is through this, yeah, through freeing yourself from the old emotions. Because whenever you have a negative emotion, no matter if you guide it towards yourself or towards somebody else, you always guide it towards yourself. Like every negative emotion you, for example, guide towards another person is a gun you put to your own head. Like, for example, you feel resentment, you feel anger towards somebody because this person wronged you in a way. Who feels bad about it? It's you. Who creates that negative emotional state? It's you. Which means that process of taking responsibility has to come from a place of forgiveness, from a place of also going more and more into love, even though in the beginning, for some people, for me, it was definitely back then, it's really hard to feel love. I mean, I was in a state of self-hate, of self-destruction, of anger back then. But then step by step, you can move out of this old emotional state and into a new emotional state. And I also believe that a lot of people in the manifestation sphere, they often make it sound a little bit too easy, where they say, just let go, just surrender, just do this. But then you do it in the practical context and you think to yourself, okay, I still feel the same. And that's why I always, we could say, annoy my listeners on my podcast, for example, with consistency, consistency, consistency. I mean, during my journey, especially during the healing journey, I had so many dark nights of the soul, like so many moments where I wanted to give up. But still, consistency is key. Also, when it comes to overcoming these negative emotions and then, yeah, taking responsibility for your creations.
Mm. Yeah, I love the way that you say that, because it's true. We create this reality. However, to go, so the way I receive it in spiritually, and I'm curious to know your perspective, is it's not like spirit or your spirit team is going, you created this surgery and you said the wrong thing, and so that's why the surgery went sideways, and something, there was effects from it. It's almost like sometimes we get so in that I created it and staying in that blame, as you're talking about. But when we kind of back up and go, wait a minute, if I created, as you said, the negative emotion, the resentment, the frustration, the feeling of like, this always happens to me, then imagine what's possible, as I was saying, if we pointed our focus in another direction. I just kind of wanted to, again, point to how that can feel difficult, but you're so right that there's these places where we can just take this responsibility and start thinking about like, what do I want then versus what I don't want? Or like you said, conjuring up feelings of peace, of safety, of love or well-being in the moment. And did it start with you? Did it start with little tiny moments and then you learned how to expand that? Or what did that look like at first as you started practicing?
I mean, specifically when it comes to my healing journey, I would say I really Yeah, I really went deep into the meditation, specifically from Joe Dispenza. I did a lot of the blessing of the energy centers, like I blessed my energy centers, I healed my energy centers. I did a lot of brain and heart coherence where I worked with the energy in my heart because I was also born with a congenital heart defect. I had heart surgeries as a baby and as a teenager, which means then my spiritual mentor said to me like, "Yeah, remember you have to heal your heart." And I was like, "Okay, okay, okay. I'm going to do the brain and heart coherence." So there was like the energetic side of things. But then
Mhm.
there was also the, let's say, visualization and feeling side of things, which goes also more into Neville Goddard's imaginal act and feeling of the wish fulfilled. And then, of course, there's also, and this is something that no matter if you want to manifest health or if you want to manifest abundance or love, whatever it might be, which is what so many people forget about, is that also during the day, you have to embody that new self. Because you have to think about it this way. When you do a 1 hour meditation every day, let's say this is the 1 hour meditation, and then you have 16 hours of going completely unconscious being negative, that's like a T-Rex eating a little pig. Like you won't be able to win against this, which means both when it comes to manifesting health and when it comes to manifesting abundance, I really tried to embody being that new self as good as I could throughout the day.
Yeah, that's so powerful. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about money, because a lot of times money can, even people that have been on this manifestation path for a while, you're like, okay, I manifested the free coffee, the parking spot I wanted, but I'm still broke. Or maybe, it's always been challenging with money. What are some of those secrets or even just the keys when it comes to abundance and it comes to creating more of it in your life? I'd love to hear.
I would say the number one thing is always, and that's also what I do with my clients in the beginning, is to always overcome your limiting beliefs. To first identify them, bring them to the surface, and to then overcome them. And of course, there are some of these limiting beliefs that, let's say, are very widespread. For example, money doesn't grow on trees. You have to work really hard to get wealthy. All rich people are evil, which nowadays comes up more and more. If I may mention that with the whole Epstein thing, where people also forget about, for example, that there are hundreds of billionaires who are just living quiet lives with their families. But of
Mm,
course, when the media focuses on a few of them, people often say, okay, all rich people are evil. And you have to remember that every thought that you think creates a certain response in your body, and your subconscious mind always wants to protect you, which means if you think all rich people are evil, your subconscious mind always wants to protect you from death, harm, and discomfort, which
mm,
means your subconscious mind then says, okay, he or she thinks that rich people are evil. Nah, better not get rich because otherwise you would get evil.
mm,
And then there are also other limiting beliefs that often don't really seem so obvious, but they are hidden in the subconscious. A good example would be the fear of being seen, which a lot of people have. And the fear of being seen then leads to customers not seeing you, clients not seeing you, business partners not seeing you, your boss not seeing you for the promotion. Then other limiting beliefs could be, for example, and this is also a very common one that people are not really aware of, if I get rich, then my family members will ask me for money.
mm,
And then, of course, again, the subconscious mind tries to protect you, which means better not get rich because otherwise you get into that feeling of discomfort of having to deal with that.
mm,
And I made the experience that for a lot of people, for most people, in fact, it's always like one or two limiting beliefs that they're not even aware of that are the most powerful one and blocking them the most.
yeah, absolutely. And these limiting beliefs can be around money, or as you said, like our other sort of issues. Like everybody listening, I'm sure most people have gone through some of the core wound healing or realizing I have an abandonment wound or a worthiness wound. And I'd love to hear just even a little bit more how that stuff can also come in to block us. I love that you're saying the beliefs around money, because we often have these without even realizing. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, I love money. Like, of course I want money. But as you were pointing to, it's like we kind of have, I call it the mo money, mo problems belief that
That's also a popular one, which makes zero sense.
yeah. And it's like, if I have more money, then more people are going to want it. And even too, like I'll have to pay taxes, I have to pay more taxes, and I hate the government. And sometimes we have to really look and see, yes, you want money. We all understand that. That's not up for debate, but what's under the surface? So I would almost like, I know I asked about, other bigger blocks that come in, but maybe even just asking, what are some of the biggest, maybe it is blocks or beliefs that you see that tends to hold your clients back?
Yeah, it's hard to tell what are the biggest ones because it's always very individual. It depends on their upbringing. It depends often also on the culture. It depends on different layers that people have. But I would say the most popular ones that people are dealing with is really the fear of being seen, then the family asking for money, then rich people are evil. That's something that nowadays comes up more and more that people are dealing with. Then it's also, and this is a very powerful one actually, and that's to give in to the idea of the collective economy. If I remember correctly, I could be wrong, but if I remember correctly, Neville Goddard was talking about that difference between individual consciousness and collective consciousness, which means the collective consciousness might be, okay, the economy is going down, gas prices are going up, things are going south, or whatever it might be. But your individual economy can be completely different. I mean, I also started multiplying my income during that time when I could barely work and when the world was in lockdown and everybody said, okay, everything is going to end. And it was really hard in the beginning to dissociate myself from the collective consciousness because your individual consciousness and therefore individual experience can always be different than the collective consciousness. That's why Neville Goddard always says the world is you pushed out, which means your reality, in a sense, is the collective of your feelings, of your beliefs, of your perceptions. And that is also something that I think people struggle a lot, where they watch the news, they talk to a friend, the friend says, and the news says, okay, everything is going downhill. They immediately incorporate this belief, and then it becomes their limiting belief in this particular time frame.
Yeah, I hear that with the collective. And that comes into a lot of things. People have so many screwy ideas about, life is this, like it's all downhill after 40, or, not in this economy, or, only 2% of entrepreneur coaches make it. Like every single time I hear that, when that stuff comes up with my client, I'm like, don't even pay attention. Like, what do you mean it's all downhill after 40 or whatever the belief is? It's so funny. And yeah, there's those collective money beliefs, like you said, money's evil, billionaires are corrupt and evil, but also the economy. Like we can't thrive in this economy. Or I see too with clients, like I'm in a company, they're in a company and they go, like, there's no room for advancement, or I can't get a raise. Like I had a raise a year ago and we don't get another, that kind of powerlessness to my circumstances, which
Exactly.
is totally understandable. And I'm not saying, no, you're not in this company, but I would almost actually like you to talk about that, how, there's sometimes backdoor opportunities, things you don't even anticipate. So I'd love to hear that even in your life and with your clients, when we kind of think one thing, like I can't make more money because this and this and this. But when your energy's in the right place, it's incredible what can open up.
I mean, that's exactly the point of manifesting, basically. It's like we are manifesting in the realm of the unknown and the unexpected, which means when you're limiting yourself and you're, for example, saying, yeah, but there's no promotion opportunity there, like I'm stuck in this job. Let's take an extreme example. Let's say you're in a job position where your boss already said, and it's also in the company policy, that there's no way for you to move upwards. Let's just use that very extreme example. Probably doesn't happen that extreme in an actual company, but let's just use that as an example. When you're then manifesting and you, for example, have this intention of I make X dollars each month, which is your intention that you send out into the field, and you then draw the experience back to you with your emotion, and you then feel the abundance, you feel the joy all the time, then the universe can give you all kinds of signs and synchronicities, or as Neville Goddard would call it, the bridge of incidents can be built for you so that you can walk across this bridge on the other side. And this can be a business idea. It can be a product idea. It can be a new job out of nowhere. It can be that one day you have this impulse that you go to a job site and in this moment you apply for that job and then you will get your dream job. It doesn't have to be this one thing. And that's why I always want to tell my clients, or I always tell my clients, let's say it like this, stay open to all opportunities. I've seen the most incredible transformations. And even in my own life, in the beginning of my journey, with my one struggling business, my ego was like, okay, it has to work with this one business. It has to happen with this one business. And the universe was facepalming itself, going like, oh God, when will he wake up? And eventually, when I then let go and I said, okay, universe, just bring it to me however you want, however it feels right for you, that's good. And then the universe, like, hey, okay, finally, I can give him all these ideas, all these synchronicities. So it doesn't have to come through that. Like, even when you're, for example, an entrepreneur and you have a product, and your ego says like it has to be this product, I worked on this thing for 2 years, it has to be this one, but the universe says like, hey, come here, there's another one, there's another opportunity. Then follow the breadcrumbs from the universe.
I love that so much because it's so true. And that can be almost like a limiting belief, right? Like, okay, I want to make an extra $10,000 a month. And then in my mind, like you're saying, it has to be the coaching program or it has to be from the company you're already in. There's a raise coming up. Like that's gotta be it. It's almost like we go outside of our almost job. Like we are putting that energy out, but then our brain's also going, okay, cool. In 2 weeks, when that job comes, I'm totally going to get it. And then we almost get attached to how it's going to come. But you may not make that $10,000 a month extra through the business. It may come through a franchise opportunity, through making t-shirts on Etsy, through whatever else. It could even come through your partner into your household. And sometimes we forget about these things. Like maybe your partner gets a raise so that now the household is making more money. There can be infinite ways that abundance and, blessings can come to you. And I love that you're saying about that. I'd love to hear you talk just a little bit more about the Bridge of Incidents, if anybody is new to Neville Goddard's work, because I feel like bridging is such a good concept and it makes us go like, okay, like, it doesn't have to maybe come all at once, or just looking for those breadcrumbs. I'd love to hear you describe the Bridge of Incidents.
The way that I see it is basically that in the imaginal act, let's say you see that scene, you see your future, you then feel into the wish fulfilled and you hold on to this assumption. And then the universe can give you everything you need in order to arrive at your destination. So for example, you're at point A, which is right now, let's take the example, you are making whatever, $3,000 a month. And then you want to go to point B, that's your manifestation, or the materialization of your manifestation, where you make $10,000 a month. And the bridge of incidents is basically a bridge that is built from that state A to that state B, where you can then very relaxed, completely chillaxed, walk over that bridge directly to your desired reality. And on the path, or let's say on the way over that bridge or across that bridge, you might have an idea. You might meet somebody who then gives you another idea, or which leads to a business partnership. And you can just follow the breadcrumbs that the universe sends you there, all the signs, synchronicities, ideas, mental nudges. And that's when you will then arrive at your destination on the other side of the bridge. And all these incidents will work in your favor in a way where you just have to follow them.
So those are like nudges, ideas, as you said, like maybe little opportunities. Is that what you mean? Is like that type of thing?
Exactly. It can be anything. And a lot of people, I think, they see manifesting a little bit, yeah, we could even say too big and too spiritual. And here's what I mean by that. If, for example, somebody has an incredible mystical experience where energy shoots in their brain and then they're healed, then they call it manifesting. But if somebody, for example, is in a meditation and then they get a direct download from the field, which is an idea for a certain supplement, that is also manifestation. Or to have the impulse to really go to a very specific doctor who might also help them. And when we look at the let's say art of manifesting money, it's the same thing. When you have a business, let's take this as an example, and you are in a very low frequency, let's say you're in lack and scarcity, then you might have a sales call with a prospect who wants to invest in your service or coaching program, whatever it might be. and you say something unknowingly that irritates them and they don't want to work with you. But then if you're in a frequency of abundance and you really feel wealthy, you feel rich, you go into that state again and again, then you have the same sales call. And it's as if the universe is speaking through you. You say things that you're not even thinking about, but you make the exact jokes that this person laughs about. You say the exact things that they are looking for to work on, and then they will say, "Okay, I want to work with you." And that is also manifesting. That's also a part of it. Even the smallest changes of, let's say, you have a YouTube channel or a podcast, and you get the idea, the mental nudge to change something in the title. That's manifesting. So it goes down in the tiniest fraction of basically, yeah, our day-to-day life.
I love that. It's so true. It's woven into our experience. It's not something separate from ourselves. And everyone who's been listening to the show for a long time, I always say, like, you don't just sit here and go, $10,000, and then it's at the end of your driveway, pot of gold. That's basically it. It landed. I manifested it. It appeared. I love that you're speaking to this, because it is like, if you have a health problem going on, or your hair's falling out, and then you're led to a certain supplement, or you see something that really goes, oh, and then that helped you. It's not that you pray for it and then tomorrow your hair stops falling out. It's like you're saying, there's these steps that happen. You're led to the solution, or you're led to the client or the abundance or what to say. And so as you continue on that path, as you're saying, that's how we get across that bridge into our manifestation. It's not just close your eyes and then open your eyes and hope it's there. If that person isn't laying in your bed right now and you don't, everything hasn't changed, then it didn't work. And I think that's somewhere, as you've been talking about, that people really get it a little bit confused, but then also feel down on themselves. They feel like it's not working. I'm not doing it right. I need to try again tomorrow, and that can be a frustrating cycle to be in.
I mean, I would always say it can happen in an instant. There are mystical experiences. Like, I mean, I've seen it in Joe Dispenza retreats, for example, with my own eyes. These things happen, but it doesn't always have to happen like that. And that is, I think, the key here, that people understand it can happen in so many different ways. And also specifically when it comes to manifesting money, or let's say in everything that we want to manifest, but let's take money as an example. We always work in the spiritual realm and the physical realm, which means we are spiritual beings and physical beings. Even Joe Dispenza at one of the advanced retreats I went to actually said, in the end, I want you to keep one foot in the physical realm, one foot in the spiritual realm, which means if we, for example, meditate, let's say we meditate 2 hours a day, go in the imaginal act, feel abundant, and then we get all kinds of ideas for a business, for a product, and we then say, yeah, but if I now start this business, or if I now create this product, that means I'm working somewhere matter to matter. That's not manifesting. I'm just gonna watch TV and wait till the universe does something for me. Like, for example, if you want to create a podcast, you cannot scream at the universe and say, record for me. You still have to do the recording. It's kind of like the story of the man who's trapped on his house during a flood and says, please, God, help me, help me, help me. And then a boat comes along, wants to rescue him, and he says, no, 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 no. I'm waiting for God to help me. And I think that's the same principle or the same trap that some people are falling into. So when the universe gives you all these ideas, then take inspired action, do the things that then lead to the results. And that's, I think, the beauty of it, that you can really combine the spiritual realm with the physical realm, where you get the downloads, you get the ideas, and you put it into practice. And it doesn't have to be gruesome, hard, suffering work. It can be in a very relaxed way where you take inspired action. And I mean, let's be honest, we don't want to sit on the beach 10 hours a day and sip 10 margaritas in a row. Like, we also want to create, we want to do certain things. And that's, I think, important to understand.
Absolutely. And how would you describe inspired action as best you can? If someone's like, I think I think I'm being led, how do you maybe tune in or help your clients to tune in to if it's inspired action or coming from, a reaction of some sort somewhere else inside you?
I mean, to describe the principle in a basic way is, again, you're, for example, in a meditation, you send that signal out into the field with your image. For example, let's say you see yourself having this amount of money, then you draw the experience back to you with the emotion, with the feeling, and then suddenly, boom, there's a download. I call it always direct download because it's kind of like a direct download in your brain, like an idea for something.
Mhm.
And now the idea is there. When the first step to figure out if it's really from source or if it's just your ego speaking is to ask yourself, where does it come from? From what energy does it come from? Which means if somebody comes from a place of ego, it's often what I call Gollum mode. You know Gollum from Lord of the Rings?
Absolutely.
It's kind of like you're in this state of like, I want to do it. It has to happen. I have to do it. What if I don't do it? No, I won't fail. And it's like this very negative, yeah, negative based emotional state where you want to do something, but it feels kind of forced. It feels, "Ah, if I don't do it, then I'm a loser. And it has to work somehow. But when it comes from source, when it's inspired action, it feels joyful. Yeah, I just got this idea. I can't wait till I put it into practice. I want to do this. I'm going to go into that. And that is the first signal. And the second one is to really ask your heart, to tune into your heart, to feel into your heart, and to ask yourself, is this idea right for me?
Mm.
Is this idea loving to me? My spiritual mentor always gave me this sentence, ask yourself with everything you do, is this loving to myself? And that is, for example, a good way of finding out if it's actually coming from the ego or if it's coming from source.
I love that. And I love, like, is this loving for me? Because sometimes you might say, like, yeah, it is, but it scares the shit out of me. And then you can kind of go, okay, that's where that nervousness was coming from, right? Like, because when we're doing something big, it can feel scary no matter what. If you're going to ask someone out or host your first international thing or whatever it is, we tend to have that, of course, that nervousness. So sometimes it can feel like, is that fear? Is that intuition? Oh my God. But when you say, like, is this loving? Is this in my highest good? Is this from source? Is this from
Exactly.
my heart? Then we start to go, yeah, it is. And I'm scared. It's like, okay, that's cool. Now we have tools. We can deal with the part of me that's scared or whatever. Right. But I love the way that you describe that. That's so perfect to know if it's inspired or to know if it's coming from a push or a force. I love when you said it almost feels grippy, like I have to do this and this has to work. And, that attachment is
Exactly. You're
usually.
trying to control things with it. And that's the opposite, because the opposite of what we have to do, because when it comes to manifesting, we always have to let go of the how and when.
Mm.
So we have to let go of control because that's the universe's job.
Yeah. I love that. That's so powerful. It's not even your job, all the hows. And even if you make that really physical and tangible, you can't ever know how things are going to actually pan out. We're not even talking about spiritually. If you were single and you were going to meet somebody, how could you ever know if you're going to meet them in a month? You're going to meet them through that friend you just met yesterday. Like, there's so many things. How I ended up buying this house, it was unlikely circumstances. It led me to somewhere outside of town. And like, when we look back, how you found your dog, how you found your partner, how you moved cities, almost nothing was something that you could have anticipated and gone like, okay, in February that's going to happen, in April that's even psychics, like, that's not the point of all of it, is to know every single day and on Wednesday that's going to happen. So I love that you're pointing to that, because we want to control it, but really we can't anyway. Who can control anything in life, right?
Yeah,
Beyond,
and
of course, what we're talking about.
remember that's I think that's important to remember, is that the universe always operates in the unknown. It is the
Mm,
unknown, because the known are just known experiences. If you focus on the known, you get the known, which means if at the moment you make $3,000 a month, then if you focus on the known, you will again make $3,000 a
mm,
month. And we human beings, of course, we are biologically programmed that we want to predict everything. Because from a biological or evolutionary perspective, like not being in control or uncertainty meant, okay, if I go out of my cave, maybe the saber-toothed tiger will eat me alive. So we are conditioned to do that. But in the realm of manifesting, the universe will take care of that. And I think it's important to also rephrase this idea of, oh, that is uncertain, and oh, that is scary, I don't know how it's coming to me, in a positive way. It's just like when you celebrate your birthday and you don't know if you will get the present at 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. You don't know how it would look like, how the packaging is, but you're just excited, like with that kind of playfulness of a child. That's how you should manifest, where you're just saying like, yeah, I'm reaching the frequency and good stuff will happen. I'm going to the imaginal act. I know good things will come to me, and then more good things and even more. And I think that is the right attitude to do it.
mm. Yeah, it definitely makes it lighter and more enjoyable and more in that love frequency. Because when you think of vibration, like joy, happy anticipation, excitement, even just neutrality around it, like I'm so open to what's coming, that's going to help you vibrationally and mentally, physically, and obviously manifestation way more than I got to do this and I got to do that. All the control freaks out there love you guys so much. It will get in the way of manifesting if we get
Oh,
too.
I used to be the biggest control freak you can imagine. I wanted to control every aspect of my life. Like in this case, I'm the stereotypical German. So I know how it feels to overcome that.
And that's incredible. And that's partly why I wanted you here, because it's great when someone has, great life, powerful thinking, always have been, like, that's great. But it's when we talk about transformation, it's even more fascinating when people go from, you're saying you were a skeptic and not spiritual and not into this stuff, all the way into what you are now in a relatively short amount of time. Like, that's a real transformation. So I also acknowledge you on that journey, because no one made you do that. No one made you take it in and change your life and go on to help others. So I'm so grateful you did. And I'm thankful for that.
Thank you so much.
Yes, of course. Okay. So as we start to wrap up, I wanted to ask two things. From your experience, do you think anyone, this is just for those that are, still hanging on to this, do you feel like anyone is eternally blocked from money? Like, I'm just bad with it. It's not in my path. Maybe it's just not meant for me, kind of thing. Do you think there's anyone that is unable to manifest money in, as a statement? And then I want to talk about some of those potent secrets of where we can start now to start to attract more abundance.
I can definitely say no. I believe everybody has the power to manifest money. And again, this is also another limiting belief. If you, for example, believe that because of whatever in your past life you were an evil banker who screwed everyone over and now you have to live in poverty, then of course you internalize this belief. This belief leads to certain feelings, it leads to certain thoughts. These thoughts send a signal out into the field, and then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I would even say every belief that we hold is a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's why it's so important to change your beliefs. So I don't believe that at all.
I love that. So if someone came to you like, no, I don't think I can, you're like, all right.
I've heard it many times in different variations. I can't manifest money. I can't visualize. I can't feel it. I can't feel my heart. I cannot do this, do that. And in the end, they were all able to do it. So it all depends on your internal state. I mean, I was struggling financially before I discovered Joe Dispenza's teachings and Neville Goddard's teachings for basically a decade. So I know that things can shift, that things can change. But again, that's also the danger. If you then, for example, search information, whatever it might be, that then tells you, yeah, you can't do it, then again, you internalize the belief, and this leads to then the outcome. And then you can say to yourself very proudly, I knew it. I knew I can't do it. I knew I was right.
I
But that
knew I
won't
was
make you richer.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, see, I knew I was broken. Ha. But then
Exactly.
energetically, it's like, okay, you win, I guess. Like, we're trying to be so right. And then it's like, wait, I'm in misery now in my own confirmed beliefs. It's kind of funny the way that we do this. This has been such a great conversation. And I would just like to hear if somebody's hearing this right now. Obviously, we're going to get into your work, how people can work with you. But if they're just hearing this and going, oh my goodness, there's things clicking here. I've never heard it like that before. What are some of the things that we can do today, that we can start to do right now, to start to shift our energy with money, and then obviously create more of it?
I would say the first thing, or let's say the most important thing in the beginning, and I might not make myself popular right now when I say this because it is very annoying in the beginning, but is to observe your thoughts before you do anything else throughout the day. And I did that in the extreme way. Like when I started out, I literally set myself a reminder every 30 minutes because every hour was too little for me back then because I always went into the negative state. But check in on yourself regularly and ask yourself, what state am I in right now? What thoughts am I thinking? What beliefs am I operating from? Why am I believing that? And the ability to put yourself in the third person perspective and to really go into these core beliefs, core thoughts, core emotions, I think is absolutely crucial. And most people are not willing to do this because it's not comfortable. They like to do a meditation every now and then say, okay, yeah, I'm manifesting now, everything is all right. But when it comes to this extra step, they are often not willing to do it. And if you are willing to do that, to really observe your thoughts, to then also make a journal, to write down your limiting beliefs, write down your limiting thoughts. And I believe personally that beliefs are just thoughts that you repeat over and over again, and they made it to the subconscious, and now you're living by them. They're basically your subconscious programs. But if you become aware of it, the first step, I mean, I remember when I wrote down all my limiting beliefs about my healing, about money, I was like, oh my God, I wasn't even aware of that. Because
Mhm.
that is, I mean, that is scientifically proven. I don't remember the exact number now, but that from the, on average, 60,000 or 70,000 thoughts we have a day, like I think 80% or even 90% are the same as the day before, which
Mhm.
means we are regurgitating the same stuff again and again and again and again, and we don't even become aware of it. I mean, how often do we have a conversation with somebody, we complain about something, again, this example, oh, the economy, and you know that, and oh my God, my job, and you know, I wish I had more money, like all of that to become aware of it. And I think this awareness is the first step. And to then also say, okay, I'm going to do a daily meditation, for example, if you want to go in the imaginal act or you want to work with Joe Dispenza's meditations. And to then also say, but when I'm not meditating, who am I then?
Mm.
Of course, one step is, as I just said, to observe your thoughts and beliefs, but then also go deeper into it and create that new self, create that character. How would you, if we take manifesting money as an example, walk? How would you talk? How would you behave? How would you react? How would you consciously act? And this is something that Neville Goddard also described in the form of the conception of yourself. Like, who do you perceive yourself to be? And who do you show up as? Because you cannot be in a meditation and feel abundant. And then when a bill comes in, you go, oh my God, no. Oh shit, I have to pay this bill. Oh, I'm screwed. That is, of course, not in alignment with it. So I believe truly if you combine meditating, going in the imaginal act, with observing your beliefs throughout the day and your thoughts, with then clearly defining who you want to be as that new self, as if you would create a character, as if you would create Indiana Jones for the Indiana Jones movies, for example, but it's your abundant self. And if you then also embody it every day, try to behave like that new self, if you combine these elements, you're in a good way.
Wow, that's just, I love the way that you said that. It's potent and yeah, absolutely just so much truth in that. So thank you so much. And I love the observing because, you know, everybody listening, we've been on this self growth journey, manifestation journey for quite a long time. And so there's a lot of people that are very self aware that are going, like, oh, I know I'm very self aware. But the truth is, if you don't have what you desire, if you don't have the abundance that you want, and you're frustrated with money or wealth, or you're looking to expand it, then there are things energetically, as you said, sneaky little beliefs. So just by observing, it feels like, yeah, sure, you've done that before, right? Be the observer. Maybe you've read The Untethered Soul and you recognize that. But what about with money? Like you said, what about when that bill comes? And that was something that I had to get really real with myself and consistently do. But one belief I uncovered about a year or two ago was that money only comes when I'm doing the quote unquote right thing. And it was more right, like energetically, spiritually. It was like when I put out the right offer, the one that my soul is meant, that's when people will buy. So then if people didn't buy, I was like, oh, it must not be right. And I didn't recognize that for years. It was so sneaky because it was disguised as growth and energy and vibration and stuff. But I had to realize, like, so my belief is money only comes when you do the right thing. You know, and I had to really look at that and go, money can show up out of nowhere. I can go return the bottles in my garage for money. I could have a friend pay me back I didn't anticipate, a client reach out of nowhere. And it could have been the marketing, it could have been when the program, like it could have been so many other things. So just really, I love that you're saying this and everybody really, you know, listening to this advice to be aware, because you could have been doing this for years, but if you don't have what you desire, there is a gap there. And it's that's what you need to do, as you're saying, is to be aware of that. So I love that you're saying that.
Exactly, that's it. Like
Yeah.
I would always say, everybody just has to look at their physical reality. And that is the reflection of how good they are at manifesting. It's really that simple. And this goes back to, now we're coming full circle to really taking that responsibility, saying, okay, I am the operant power and I can actually create the life for myself that I want to create if I take the right steps and if I work on myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And avoiding that shame. If you do, just go, oops, I guess I created some things I don't want. Good thing I'm learning now. We can move forward, right? We're all doing it. We're all trying to figure out this messy human experience. So I just love the way that you're framing all of this. Thank you so much. This has been so powerful. And as we wrap up, to sum all of this up, why do you think, or I should ask, what makes all the difference? What makes all the difference when we are creating wealth and abundance in our lives?
You mean a certain technique or a certain method, or just in general, whatever I can
Yeah,
think
just
of?
in general, like as our sort of closing words in a way, what is it that really makes all the difference when it comes to wealth and abundance?
I would say what makes all the difference is the combination of self-awareness, internal changes emotionally, and then also more and more believing in yourself that you can do it, that you are a creator, and that you actually then show up for yourself consistently. And this is actually interconnected because, or let's say connected. The way you believe in yourself and in your own power will be reflected by the way you show up for yourself. I can guarantee you that somebody who actively manifests every day believes in themselves way more than somebody who says, okay, I'm going to do it once a week, maybe, and then another 2 weeks, I'm going to make a break. So I truly believe if you combine the awareness with the internal emotional shift, and you then also show up for yourself every day, and you then step into that realm of believing in yourself and your power as a creator more and more, that's the sweet spot.
Mm, absolutely. Oh, so good. I love this so much. And speaking of abundance, you have an abundant gift slash offer for us. If anybody is wanting to take their work with Sebastian farther, you've got a very generous discount for us. Tell us about your one-on-one coaching.
Exactly. At the moment, I offer my 8 week one-on-one coaching program, but I also offer individual coaching sessions. And for individual coaching sessions, I offer a generous discount of 100 euros, which is around 120 US dollars, which means the regular price for a one-on-one coaching session with me for a 60-minute coaching session would be 300 euros, which is around 340 US dollars. But at the moment, with that discount, it's only 200 euros, which is around, $220. And if you want to find out more about the individual coaching sessions that I offer with that discount, then you can go to affirmation2manifestation.com/session. And if you want to find out more about my 8 week abundance reality shift coaching program, which is my 8 week one-on-one coaching program, at the moment, I'm actually also offering a 9th bonus session. You can go to affirmation2manifestation.com/abundance.
Thank you so much. I will definitely put the links below for the program, for the coaching session. And I recommend everybody jump on that if you've been wanting to move forward, especially with wealth and abundance, because you have changed your life. You're the real deal. You've practiced it. You've done it. You've now been helping people. And it's just so powerful. So I'll put those links below for everybody that wants to check out Sebastian. And just before we go, where do you hang out online? Is there somewhere where someone could find you if they wanted to either follow along or see, these offers that you're talking about? Your website, I'm guessing. Is there anywhere else you hang out online?
Yes, I have a podcast which is called the Affirmation to Manifestation podcast. And I also have a YouTube channel which is called Sebastian Manifests. So if you type into YouTube at Sebastian Manifests, then you can also find me on YouTube.
Nice. Perfect. Thank you so much, Sebastian. Again, all the links are below. This has been an incredible conversation. I thank you so much for your time and all this education. It's just been so great. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to the True Transformation Summit. Make sure to take what this guest said, implement it into your life, check the show notes for their gift and to follow along on the journey, and make sure to tune in to the next guest episode. Namaste.